We'll begin our May 17, 2023 Education Committee meeting. First, I would like to thank everyone for joining us. We have a very full agenda this evening. And so without further ado, we're going to get started. So you all have been welcomed. We're going to move to our next agenda item, which is a personnel item.
Ms. Cook Henry, I'm not sure that we can conduct that item because we may have 5 board members now. I think Ms. Hoff is coming on. So we do 1, 2, 3. We do have 5 now.
Okay. So,
and I believe we were also waiting for there's Mr. Kaufman, because we do the Pledge of Allegiance because this is considered an official meeting. So we have to do the pledge. He has to take roll call, and then we can do the vote and consider the item that the board needs to vote on.
I'm sorry, Dr. Because I'm only seeing four members.
There are 5: Wadia, Joanna, Jennifer, Valerie, and Mr. Tom.
Oh, there we go. I was missing Jan. Thank you. Okay.
Someone has some feedback going on in the background, so we could mute until we're speaking. And we'll move in that order as we are in an official meeting.
Okay, so we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're still hearing the background. Deirdre, can you mute everyone, please?
Yes, I'll do that right now.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kaufman.
Okay. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Next, I will take roll. Ms. Hoff.
Present.
Mr. Wright is not present. Ms. Richardson, not present. Ms. Hopkins.
Present.
Mr. Tong.
Present.
Mr. Callahan is not present. Ms. Cook Henry.
Present.
Ms. Ivory.
Present.
And Ms. Boykins is not present.
I'm present. Yep. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I just came in. Sorry about that.
Share that item.
We need to share the appointment.
Yes.
I will share my screen. I don't see.
Thank you. I don't have the appointment in my item.
It's right there on the screen. Can everyone see that?
No.
You don't see
There we
it?
go.
Now we can.
So our motion this evening is to approve the appointment as indicated with the salary and prorated to start with, it's very small, on the receipt of the approved clearances and physical as required by law. The approval is for Tracy Gardner, and she will be our replacing Katie Schlesinger. All in favor? Are there any questions?
No questions.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposes? Motion carries.
All right, I will stop sharing my screen. All right, we can proceed with the
Thank you.
next items.
So our next item is the reporting out of our strategic plan and updates, and I will be turning this over to our academic services.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn, Dr. Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Focus 4 academic measures, and we are recommending some modifications to those goals so that they are more appropriate given the information that we have now. I'm allowed for Dr. Lewis to talk through some of these points, and then I will take us through the numbers in the next couple slides so that you can see how they play out in terms of the strategic plan goals.
Okay, so the first two bullet points kind of represent a kind of combined move where we're recommending that we take our William Penn's performance in 21-22, just communicating that that is what we see as a new baseline. It's after COVID. It's also after this kind of awkward year of data that of 2020 to 2021, which we have, but the state says don't use for a year-to-year comparison. So we're taking that as our baseline, as our starting point moving forward. And we are recommending in the second bullet point that the state averages for that same year are our new goals for 24-25, replacing the blanket everything increases by 30 points goal. This helps make all the goals equally ambitious, and it also helps adjust expectations in line with statewide declines in performance after COVID that are affecting all other school districts.
All right, I can talk a little bit about the next couple of goals. Can you go back for a second? Yep. So in terms of Keystone assessments, we wanted to make sure that we modified our Keystone assessment goals so that they reflect the same one-year measures that our PSSA goals do. Keystone is a different type of test because technically students can take it at any time between 9th and 11th grade. So we just wanted to clarify that all of our Keystone metrics were associated with first-year test takers, similar to all of the PSSAs. All of the students in third grade take the third grade assessments, so forth and so on. There's also group reporting of ELL due to the sample size. We wanted to make sure that we aggregated those goals together in grade bands so that they could be more appropriate and measurable. And then the last one is a minor change around the removal of vendor-specific assessment language. And you'll see what that looks like actually on the next slide. All right, so as you can see here, this goal removes some of the vendor language related to the assessments. Now it's a more general kindergarten students at benchmark at the end of the year reading assessment and at the end of the year mathematics assessment. And as you can see, as Dr. Lewis outlined before, the new benchmark is the 21-22 year. This is a little bit different than the state assessments because this is our internal number. There isn't necessarily a state average. And so that is our goal for 24-25. And as you can see that on the bottom there are some notes that says any of those goals that are written in red represent district assessments, whereas the blue assessments will represent statewide assessments. And this is similar to the format or the same as the format in the original Focus 4 strategic plan. We can keep moving forward. All right, so here are some examples of these. I'm not going to read them all to you, but once again, it follows the methodology outlined by Dr. Lewis. The 21-22 assessment numbers are the baseline, and the goal for 24-25 are the current state averages for those numbers. As you can see, as you look at them anecdotally, most of them or a lot of them are around that 30 points. So it's not that we're saying that we're going to be less ambitious, but we just wanted to peg the number to something that is relevant given post-COVID realities so that it felt attainable for schools, teachers, and students. We can keep moving. All right, same thing here. we also have for our readiness for middle school, we followed the same methodology when we broke out the subgroups for special education. So you'll see that here, as well as readiness for high school, those special education subgroups broken out. But once again, using the same methodology of what is the state average versus what was our past year performance. We can continue. All right, not talk through this. The only difference on this slide to prior is that there is a science assessment in 8th grade that we're also going to be tracking success towards. Once again, this was all in the original documentation in our strategic plan, but the numbers follow the new methodology. We can continue. All right, so here we have the high school students on track for graduation, excuse me. And as you can see, we've outlined that language there that these are specifically going to be measuring first-time test takers. Fortunately, the state also outlines and delineates this subgroup for us. So it's not something that we would have to anecdotally do on the back end. It's already native to the data files that we receive from PDE. All right, and this last, I believe this is the last slide. This outlines the ELL population. And as you can see, we've broken them into 2 cohorts. The first being our elementary cohort. So 3rd to 6th grade ELL students will be aggregated together for math and ELA, as well as 7th through 8th grade students for ELL that will be aggregated for math and ELA. Once again, we wanted to make sure that given the number that we are having a large enough population size to be able to accurately compare year over year. All right, let's pause for a second to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, am I missing any? Okay, seeing none, we'll continue with our Forest Pathway project updates.
All right, I'll be presenting on that part too. All right, so first of all, I really want to thank the teachers that took time out to participate on our committee. I've listed them out there. We had a really diverse group of whether it be classroom teachers, we had instructional facilitators, as well as principals, and we have representation from all 8 of our elementary schools. So I really want to thank each of those folks for their time and diligence on this project. So I just wanted to shout those folks out: Kayleen Bodner, Carrie Bodner, Kelly Brandt, Patrick Haynes, Afia Lewis, Tiana Mack, Nicole Miller, Javon Oates, and I'm sorry, something popped up on my screen, Diane Williams. And so not only every single school, but every single content, general education, special education, and we even had representation from our specialists, music on this committee. So I want to thank the committee members. All right, we're going to continue. So I just want to ground this work, as always, in our vision. Right, we want as a district to empower all students to ultimately be career and college ready. And our Career Pathways project is that's exactly what it's aligned to, making sure that at every level, we're preparing students for career. This explicitly aligns with our strategic plan. So specifically the action strategy that outlines the district will serve as a model for interdisciplinary academic collaboration with the development and implementation of a K-12 STEAM initiative. We began that work over the last year or so, working on secondary. We needed to do the K-6 portion of that work, which we extended through this project. Additionally, in that strategic plan, it specifically mentioned programmatic offerings. So on the secondary level, programmatic offerings primarily consist of the courses that we're offering, as well as some of the extracurricular and programs. But on the elementary level, it is primarily driven by integration into the core curriculum as well as programs. So very interesting work that we were able to do, and hopefully you'll be excited about our recommendations. Just to give a quick recap, so the Elementary Career Pathway Project, in that committee, its job was to develop a proposal for a revised elementary pathway, which is course offerings and programming. And we use school data, industry research, and school logistical concerns to present this recommendation to the school board for launch in spring 2023. And the idea is that all of these things won't be in play the first day of September 2023, but we will begin rolling layers of this out in September 2023 to work towards this over the next couple of years. All right, just to give a quick recap of where we are in this process, we already have completed phase 1 and 2, where we did our analysis of the current state, meaning like where are we starting? Phase 2, researching best practices. What were other school districts doing? What are the standards that the state has provided with us? What guidance are they giving us? And then phase 3 is building that recommendation and getting feedback. So we actually, and I also should have said this earlier, or could have said this earlier, that we had families come out and participate and give us feedback, and we got a chance to meet with parents. And so that was part of our phase 3 as well. And they gave us some good feedback and also some encouragement to say like, hey, the things that you guys are doing are exciting, and we believe in the work that's being done. So the last part of that is to the larger community, presenting to the board and all the folks here today. All right, so let's get to the recommendations. So to make this as straightforward as possible, we broke this down into 4 principles. And these were all really themes that if you came to our earlier presentations, we talked about where we were coming from, and all these align to the things that we were talking about earlier in our process. So the first one is that the district will ensure that equitable access to STEAM education resources for all students. So making sure that regardless of what school students go to, that they have access to the same programs. Principle 2, the district will develop structures and systems to support STEAM education at a district level. And so the key part here is that the district will partner with schools as opposed to leaving it to them independently to figure these things out, leverage our structures and our size, our processes to do that for all schools collectively. Next, the district will drive career benchmark alignment and core content enrichment programming with STEAM. So in terms of standards, we're really going to be looking at those PA career ready standards and making sure that those things are embedded into our core curriculum. And then lastly, the district will grow strategic STEAM partnerships with organizations to leverage unique opportunities. Meaning we'll continue to partner externally to do this work. And so we'll dive a little bit deeply into these on the next couple slides. So what does this mean, equitable access? Some of the things, the specific recommendations tied to this are consistent specialist schedule. So all students are being exposed to, when we say specials, art, music, some of those programming, physical education, making sure that they are all getting exposed to that at an equal level. District-based ordering of materials. So one of the concerns was that if I'm an art teacher, I'm relying on my school's budget to provide art supplies as opposed to a district-wide budget. Funding for curriculum writing resources. So we do curriculum writing over the summer. We're going to be including not only math and ELA and science teachers, but also our specialists into that process. And then specific professional development aligned to STEAM education. All right, principle 2, structures and systems. So one of the things that we will do as a district is present a menu of student STEAM opportunities. So once again, so that schools don't have to independently navigate this on their own. Teacher collaboration and professional development opportunities. We currently have district-wide common planning time that is focused on core content. We want to integrate some of these STEAM concepts into that system and structure we've created. Similarly, integration into social emotional learning curriculum. So having those conversations around SEL as well. And then parental engagement through programming. So how do we get parents involved? One of the things that came up from the parent feedback committee was there are some parents that are entrepreneurs or that have particular passions and they would like to support schools or the larger community. So leveraging our district systems and our outreach and our leverage to be able to create these opportunities for people to come in and partner with us. Principle 3, career benchmark alignment. So this is all about career benchmarks that are provided by the state that really outline some core areas. Support from academic services, specifically at my office, in marketing, monitoring, coaching, high impact programming, so that once again, schools don't need to figure out and navigate this on their own. We're going to create some guidelines around it, and then continued support of STEAM integrated summer and after school programs. So as you guys know, we talked about this last time, all of our summer programs are aligned to STEAM education. We want to extend that to after school programming and support it, whether that be through funding or through programming or just marketing, we're going to help expand that so that's a year-round process. All right, principle 4, strategic STEAM partnerships. So one of the things that was really interesting is that we already had like a lot of really good partnerships with organizations, but they were usually school-based. So we want to create district-level partnerships with organizations that support this work. To be honest, we already have a couple of projects in the works that I'm really excited to announce soon. Some potential partners include Amazon Engineers, Crazy Eights, the Kimmel Center, FBLA, collaboration with secondary schools, and et cetera. So leveraging the power of district-wide initiatives to make sure that kids get access to these opportunities. All right, so I'll take a break for a second if there's any questions on the principles or those recommendations.
Are there any questions? School board directors, we're good? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll continue moving.
So now we'll move into our school improvement plans. Tonight we'll have representatives from Penwood High School, who is a CSI school. CSI schools are schools facing the most significant challenges in academic growth. I'm sorry, CSI is not Penwood High School. It is Penwood Middle School. Sorry, Dr. Lee. Tonight, Dr. Beitzler will discuss CSI, and CSI are schools that are facing significant challenges in academic achievement, student growth, and other focus areas. The CSI school actually receives funding to support the work that needs to be done. A TSI school is Penwood High School. Dr. Lee will share with us her school plan and what they will do in monitoring the plan for 23-24. TSI schools are schools that performances by one or more student groups that are below state standards. And we will hear that from Principal Williams, Principal Birch, and Principal Oach. Okay, so moving forward. Dr. Beitzler.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Faulkner Beitzel. I'm the assistant principal at Penwood Middle School for curriculum and instruction. We have been meeting as a school team to develop our CSI plan for the 23-24 school year and the 3-year term that plan involves. Our steering committee involves our administrative team, principal, both assistant principals, several teachers from different content areas, and parent representation as well. And we are led by Ms. Heather Stottlemyre, our school improvement facilitator from the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. Our process right now is continuous. We meet on, right now in the development phase, we're meeting probably about every couple of weeks to go through the development of the document process. After that, there's a certain timeline that we meet continually throughout the school year to evaluate our plan and evaluate the data that comes along with that plan. What we're doing right now, as I said, is looking at 2 practices to continue to improve our process, where we will implement an evidence-based system for school improvement of positive behavior and interventions, as well as continuing to focus on our academic achievement and growth in ELA math, and also targeting our ELL population. Currently, we have been meeting as a steering committee to develop our goals and additional action plans. We met today to develop goals and action plans for ELA math and our behavior goals as well. And to then look at those goals and benchmark them out on a quarterly basis. So that will start our goals with a baseline academic measurement and behavior measurement. And then every quarter we will improve our growth in those areas and measure towards that growth. Currently, the action plans we're looking at for the 23-24 school year include both of those principles. So we are reevaluating our PBIS system, which is our positive behavior instructional support system. We are also making sure that we continue to support our job embedded instructional coaching model with an ELA and a math coach to support those teachers. We continue to utilize the funds that we will get through CSI for professional development, specifically for benchmarking, data informed instruction, small group instruction, and the CPT process as we continue to implement all of those models in the middle school. The last thing we do is we do have weekly meetings with teacher groups, and that includes analysis of our intervention data within the classroom, as well as our common assessments and our benchmarking data. So all of that would be included in the action plans that we are developing right now for the next school year. And we will continue to meet as a monitoring team as well. The CSI process is pretty structured on how often you meet. So there's biweekly, monthly, and quarterly meetings where we go over all of the data that supports the goals that we have written. And the last slide, the allocation of the funds. Currently, we were provided $354,000. We haven't received anything yet from the state that says that this amount of funds would change one way or the other. So we're kind of basing our development of the plan on those funds. And currently we are going to use those funds for the 2 site-based teacher leaders, as well as a dean of students who will oversee the PBIS program. And again, as I had mentioned in the previous slide, the professional development and supplemental of curriculum items to total that $354,000, which we currently get, and we're hoping to get about the same in the upcoming school year. Thank you. Any questions that you may have for the middle school plan?
Any questions? I just am curious, how closely are you, Dr. Lewis, with working with the schools on their CSI, TSI plans? Or are you able to connect with them to support in looking at the data that they're going for?
Thanks for the question. There have been a couple of cases where both for the staff at the middle school for the CSI plan, and then some of the TSI elementary schools have reached out for obtaining certain data, wanting to make sure they're pulling numbers from the right spot, things like that. I've given some advice about how to interpret some of the diagnostic assessment results. I would say a lot of the support is sort of part of academic services contact with all schools around assessment data in general. I think there are often sort of side conversations where any of the schools are kind of double checking some piece like that related to these plans. We are, also talking about, continuing to review these plans and kind of cross the T's and dot the I's, so to speak. So it's a mix, I would say, of kind of the support that all schools are getting, and then sort of targeted questions and support as it comes up.
Thank you. Ms. Hoff.
Thank you. Jennifer's fine. The PBIS dean, is that a dean of discipline? And that is only as long as we have the money, correct? This is not a permanent position.
It would be funded currently through CSI. I believe our plan would eventually be to be able to fund that through the school budget at some point.
Okay, and
Dean of Discipline, it would be culture and climate. So they do both positive reinforcement as well as manage and supervise and deal out the code of conduct consequences.
Okay, so is the title Dean of PBIS? Did I miss it?
No, it's Dean of Students.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Ivory.
Hi, I just was curious with the external resources we've been using for providing counseling supports for our students. With this, are we looking to maybe add additional support at this particular school to assist with the Dean of Students and with the programs you're putting in place?
We currently utilize Lakeside support. So we do have a person that is in the building on a daily basis supporting the proactive mental health of our students. It's not funded through the CSI funds, but we do have that, that position in the building.
Okay, and are we looking to maybe add additional, is it a thought to maybe add an additional person, or is that having that one person there proving to be a success at this point? Or is it something that might be, or additional people needed to,
I think currently we probably don't need additional people. We are utilizing our social worker and our psychologist who's going to be helping us put together more in-house counseling programs for targeted groups of students next year. We are finding that, there are certain populations of students that are struggling more than others, and we want to be able to provide them some counseling services through what we use with Lakeside and internally with our guidance counselors.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Brown, we can continue to move on.
Good evening. My name is Judy Lee. I'm the principal at Penn High School. So ATSI committee consists of student, parent, teachers from English, Algebra 1, and special education, all administrators, and our community partner. We have been meeting monthly and continuously to implement our school improvement plan with Fidelity. And our school improvement plan facilitator, Sydney Tosson at DCIU, has been working with us to ensure that we are making continuous progress to be able to exit from ATSI. Next, please. Our area of focus comes from the exit criteria that we receive from the state. So 24% of our students with an IEP will be proficient or advanced on the Keystone exam literature. Keystone exam Algebra 1 is 21.8% of our students with an IEP will be proficient or advanced. 4 and 5 year adjusted cohort graduation rate for our students with an IEP is 69.4%. Regular attendance, including both excused and unexcused absences for our students with an IEP is 52.5%. That our students with an IEP will make significant academic growth in our PBAS data. As of now, we already met our exit criteria for regular attendance category. We have 2 exit opportunities. The first one is in September 2023, and the second exit opportunity is in September 2024. Our action steps is to continue to identify and address our students' needs socially, emotionally, and academically. That we support our students' needs to ensure that our students are proficient on our Keystone exam, literature, and Algebra 1, and they are making significant academic growth. We are implementing both positive behavior intervention support and multi-tier system of support to ensure that we are meeting our students' needs effectively. We are doing our ongoing and differentiated professional development for our staff to be inspired and empowered to support our students so that we are making progress to be able to exit from ATSI. We received ATSI fund from the state for school year 22-23 and 23-24. So we used $119,393 for our credit recovery to help our students to make up their missing credit, after school help with club for tutoring, and as well as the common assessment to be able to analyze our data effectively to provide both data-driven and differentiated instruction. Testing coordinators for the Keystone assessment, PBIS internal coach and incentives for positive climate and culture, and after-school college career counseling. Do you have any questions?
I do, if I don't see any other hand. Was there a question from someone else? Dr. Lee, if I'm understanding your reporting, the last year for the ATSI funding will be 24, 25?
So state informed us that state will not provide ATSI fund any longer. So we were informed that we had $119,393 for this current school year and next school year.
And pardon my ignorance, but how does that typically work? When is it, are you timed out, or are there other reasons that state will say that this is your last year for funding?
So the decision that state is not going to provide any more ATSI fund was for all schools in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So this is not just for the high school, this is across the board.
For all ATSI schools in Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? We can continue.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rakiba Birch, principal of Ardmore Avenue Elementary School. And as my colleague stated, our school team is the core group in this process. We have met at the DCIU with support from our cohort. It includes a cross-section of our school, to include our lead teachers who are, in fact, teachers of math and different subject areas. The new appointed assistant principal will be a critical component of this group. We have two special education teachers in this group, instructional facilitators, a parent, academic interventionist, and our special ed liaison, as well as our ELL teacher we thought was very important to include, and our school counselor. We are grounded in a process of planning in a year-long assessment process using the map that we will be using starting next year, and the math and Acadience and ELA for all of our students and our special ed population. I'd like to denote that TSI, I think as Ms. Brown stated, the designation comes from either one or more category where you're not making sufficient academic achievement. And that would be our group of students with disabilities at Ardmore. Next, our areas of focus that we have identified are mathematical practices. We see that we are looking at a range of fall to the end of the year where 90% of our students will meet or exceed their individual growth goals as measured by a change in their scores from their baseline, going on to their end of year assessment. And those are quarterly checkpoints that we will be looking at with progress monitoring. We're looking at math proficiency for the all student population. So as you can see, we're looking at all and our category with students with disabilities to be making growth and progress. We are increasing 10% within our all population, and our literacy foundation we are looking at between fall and the end of the year, we're increasing the number of students that are reading at grade level as measured by our tools by 10% for the students with disabilities population. Next slide, please. Okay. The remaining areas of focus is the literacy proficiency for all as well. Using our Acadience data, we're looking at reading at grade level as measured by our assessment that we're using for the all student population. And attendance, we're looking at regular attendance for both categories, for our all student population and also for our students with disabilities, where we see a big discrepancy. Right now, our students with disabilities, regular attendance is 69%. So we are growing that by 10%. And our all student population rate is 93.35, and we're growing that to 96.5. And we want to close that gap and look at some root causes of that. Our timeline to include the exit criteria will be focused on and based on our regular attendance category. Our first exit opportunity is coming up soon in the fall. We are ambitious in our goals to come out of this. This would be based on this May's PSSA data. So we're just aspirational, and we think that we can do this. And that's why we placed that there. Achievement in math and ELA combined for students with disabilities, and this will be based on regular attendance for students with disabilities as well. Our action steps for the implementation of this, our big leverage points are our school-based after-school programs. We found great success in those, and we track that data throughout the year. We want to continue to do that. We're implementing a 20-week after-school program that we're calling Bridge the Gap. We did the same thing this year. There will be a pre and post test. There will be students who are identified as students with disabilities included, as well as our all student population targeted for this. Secondly, our next leverage point will be high dosage tutoring, which happens during the school day. We were fortunate enough to have this year. This includes our academic interventionists. Students will receive a small group of pull-out instruction, and we will include these students that we have identified with the help of Dr. Lewis, and ensuring that they're getting this high dosage tutoring during the school day. Our next leverage point is an actual research-based strategy called CRA, based on math, best practices, concrete representational abstract method. We will use monies to train our staff, receive training from the DCIU. We met with some exemplars, our first meeting at the DCIU, who are using this practice, and we'd like to expound upon that. And then lastly, we will be doing check and connect with those students that we have identified to support and decrease their chronic absenteeism and truancy. Are there any questions at this time? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me, I am Javon Oates, principal of Bell Avenue Elementary School. Our TSI committee was comprised of our leadership team members, our instructional facilitator. We've had grade level representation from kindergarten, from ELA, math, content areas, our SPED liaison, and also we had representation from one of our parents. To implement the TSI School Improvement Plan with fidelity is our goal. We will meet monthly as a school leadership team to monitor our goals and progress. This is a year-long process to analyze, and we will use data from various resources such as Lexia, Dreambox, Maps, Acadience, eSchool, Panorama, and our intervention data. We will monitor progress and continue to adjust to improve in the areas of ELA, math, and attendance for all student groups. Bell Avenue's TSI designation was for students with IEPs, for ELA and math, and also for attendance. So our current data for math for regular education students, we have a 6.4 proficiency rate from last year's PSSA scores. We are endeavoring to increase by 10% this year. Hopefully this year's data will meet or exceed that goal. Students with disabilities for math, currently we're at a 4.5% proficiency rate, and our goal is to increase by 10%. For ELA, for regular education, our current state is 20.8%. We are endeavoring to meet the goal of 30.8 proficiency. Students with disabilities, we have a 9.1 proficiency rate currently, and our goal is to achieve 19.1. Currently, the attendance rate for all students is 68.3. Special education, currently their attendance rate is a little bit above our regular education students. It's at a 71% rate, but we are endeavoring to reach 88% school-wide for all student groups. I do believe the statewide average was 86, so we're looking to exceed that statewide average. So the timeline to include exit criteria. The ELA PSS goals will be met for all student groups by June 2024. The math PSSA goals will be met for all student groups by June 2024, and the attendance goals will be met for all student groups by June. All above goals will be exit criteria from TSI. Some of the things that we are doing new this year that will help us to achieve this goal. We will utilize and analyze formative and benchmark assessment data, which will include Acadience and MAPS, which is our new math benchmark to identify student needs for growth. We will provide interventions aligned to grade level standards to address individual student needs. We will have intervention blocks for all student groups. For ELA and math, we will have tutoring before and after school. And as my colleague stated, that was a high leverage point for us as well this year. We will continue to utilize Lexi and Dreambox to strengthen reading and math skills. And we will progress monitor our special education population with reading mastery. We will also bring to the Bell Avenue team a new learning support teacher. We were fortunate enough to hire someone that will break up some of the grade bands so that that person can go deeper with grade level skills for our special education students. We will also hire a new learning support, an instructional assistant to support with that endeavor. For attendance, incentives for parents and students, we will implement to increase regular attendance. We are also working on a late bus if possible. We just identify some root causes. And one of the root causes that impacted our student attendance is that some of our students, if they're late, they can't make it to school. So implementing a late bus will definitely help with this endeavor. And for our special education students, we will implement Attendance Works, which is an online program we will use for parent outreach to inform parents of some strategies to get our students to school. We will also utilize Panorama to group students who are potentially in danger of truancy, and we will continue to utilize our eSchool data to target truancy issues as well. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joseph Williams, principal of Warner Elementary School and a proud Celtics fan. Just wanted you guys to know that.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
You're a mess.
Excuse me, we're off task right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get refocused. I'm sorry. I didn't know if anybody knew that. I just wanted to. But anyway.
We don't care.
A little bit. So we've been designated TSI designation this year, and we have a steering committee that is comprised of various individuals that serve different respective positions in the building that bring different levels of expertise that helped us to develop, or the beginnings, I should say, of the plan that we're going to work on. It will be a continuous plan, and it is the beginning for us. So as we are making our way through it, we'll continue to make the necessary adjustments to ensure that we're helping our scholars achieve at the highest level. So we do meet monthly as a leadership team. We know that moving, and with this plan, we're going to have to meet more frequently to ensure that we're going to be progress monitoring the things that we're putting in place and making sure that we are staying on track with our school-based goals. So listed here are some of the resources that we're going to be utilizing and ensuring that we're taking a look at to ensure that we are moving in the right direction and monitoring our progress. I did add, we added open-ended responses for both math and reading. We think that's going to be a high leverage item for us to focus on helping our students to really engage with being able to answer open-ended math questions and to be able to dissect reading in a way where they're picking out the pieces that are significantly important when they are engaging with their responses. Our focus is going to be on ELA math and regular attendance, and our designated groups are our all group and our special ed with a focus on academic achievement and attendance as well. You can move to the next slide. Thank you. So these are the three areas that we're going to be focused on this year in terms of really seeking and pushing for higher levels of proficiency. Our growth rates are moving in a direction that is suitable for us, but the overall proficiency rates are the ones that we're going to have to really significantly push our students to achieve. So listed there are our rates of achievement for both our all group and our special ed group, as well as our goals for each category. We're really going to be heavily focused on math, as it states right there. None of our students with disabilities were deemed to be proficient in math. So we definitely have some work to do in that particular area. And with regular attendance, I'm pleased to say that we do have a cohort of students that were struggling this year, and we put some, we implemented some strategies that has changed about 75% of their attendance. So we do have a foundation, some of which Principal Oates mentioned in terms of pulling resources from the attendance website that we utilize to kind of change the trajectory of ensuring that our kids come to school. So we'll continue to utilize that. And our goal is to get everyone to be at 95%. So we are going to be ambitious in seeking those goals. Our exit strategies for timelines will be June of 2024, based on our PSSA results and the attendance goal that we set. We will be progress monitoring throughout the year using our benchmark methods to ensure that we're meeting those progress benchmarks. And here are some of the action steps that we're going to take. We're going to be really heavily focused on our intervention and our tutoring, both in school with the high leverage piece that was mentioned by Principal Birch, and after school as well. We've had some success this year with focusing our second and third graders. Our attendance was really good, and we've seen some growth with that particular group. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be focused on open-ended responses, particularly with writing, really explicit instruction, and a vocabulary piece, particularly as it relates to math, so that we're ensuring that our kids understand what they're asked to do, with quarterly problem solving initiatives, so we can really dig into that work with them. And as far as attendance is concerned, we have been beginning these particular steps that are listed here. We're going to continue to track our attendance, continue to engage with our families to determine what is the barrier for kids not coming to school, or for kids that are coming consistently tardy. And one of the things that stood out in our student survey, they found a connection with staff members here. So that was rated pretty high for us. So we believe that we'll get some high leverage on that mentoring piece, having a student connect with some staff members to ensure that they're helping them to get to school on time and to come to school and try to minimize those barriers. Our Title I funding will be used to support these initiatives. Any questions?
Is it okay if I go, Ms. Val?
Yes, I didn't see your very.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
I just wondered if I'm correct in seeing a trend that our issues are with special education students and attendance lateness, that sort of thing, right? That seems to be common amongst our ATSI and TSI schools. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And like, I wonder if, like, is that, and I'll go back and look because we're supplied with attendance, but that seems to be a regular problem. And I wonder if transportation, the 2-mile walking distance, those sort of things, which are done for fiscal reasons, if there's anything like systemically we could do in our district to help our families with that. Just a bigger question.
I think that's a great question. And I know that some preliminary research has been done around attendance, and we will continue to work with Dr. Lewis on seeing if our data can help us make some other determinations, but I don't disagree with you at all, Ms. Hoff.
Thank you, Dr. Meekins.
And now would be the time to grapple with it as we're approaching elimination of funding in some areas to make sure that we're on top of it in advance.
Yeah, it also may make sense to advocate at this time for a 5-mile distance for buses. So maybe we can afford more busing, you know, a shorter distance for our own students to help them get to school.
Are there any other questions, comments?
And I just want to add one more thing. I do want to say thank you to Dr. Lewis. There was information that that really was helpful to us as we were beginning to dig into this work, that he did reply to us in a timely manner that really helped us to move along and just become efficient in the process of planning. So thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Yes, thank you.
Boo, Celtics.
Just
Sorry, I can't let it go.
Just moving us forward and staying focused, you know. Sixers had to as well. Celtics may fold soon.
Yes.
However, the next voice you'll hear will be from Ms. Janine Wiley. She is our lead neurologist from Lakeside, and she'll give us an overview of the program.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Janine Wiley. I'm not sure why I can't see you on my laptop. It appears that I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right. Is there feedback on your end?
Yes.
If you turn your camera off, that may help.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to go from my phone. Lakeside, this is our second year that we've had the privilege of partnering with Penwood Middle School to provide a William Penn School District, excuse me, to support the district in providing services to the students. Our focus really is on working with students to provide and schools to provide brain-based trauma-informed counseling and regulation support to students. So for Penwood Middle School, we have from year to date, beginning September 6th, we have provided 337 sessions to students. We've done 127 sessions specifically working with students and providing regulation support and individual consultation. We have done 4 group counseling sessions in conjunction with the guidance staff. We've done 33 classroom observations and 3 community circles. The community circles were done in partnership with the student support counselor at the 9th grade academy, and they were done in response to some of the concerns that the students have raised with our team as it pertains to some of the violence that they've witnessed in the community. And so our team has gotten together and facilitated the community circles for the middle school and the 9th grade academy students. Next slide, please. So in the 9th grade academy, we continue again to provide brain-based trauma-informed services to support the 9th grade students, and year-to-date services beginning September 6th through May 9th. We've provided 222 individual sessions to students, group counseling sessions, 193 meetings with students that focus solely on regulation support. And this is normally when students are referred to us because they are upset and they need some additional support in managing their emotions and processing and coming back to homeostasis, if you will, so that they can return to class. The student support counselor has provided 41 or has participated in 41 parent conferences and reinstatement meetings. She has conducted 14 peer mediations. She has, her current caseload is 21. But year to date, she has provided one-on-one counseling and support services to 162 9th grade academy students. And she has facilitated 1 community circle in the 9th grade academy. Next slide, please. At the high school, we have conducted a total of 480 sessions with students. Our caseload year to date is 156 students. And it's important to note that we provide a very brief time limited 3 to 5 sessions with students that we work one-on-one counseling services with, that we provide one-on-one counseling services to. However, all of the numbers that you have seen listed in the middle school, the 9th grade academy, and in this slide also encompass students who are referred to us by staff just in the moment. So students who may have had an encounter with another student and they need support in being regulated, they need support, they come to us because they are upset. So that number that you have seen in all 3 of the slides represents not just students on the caseload, but also all of the students that we have served. In Penwood High School, we have provided 43 administrative or staff consultations, and that's usually us working in partnership with a teacher, guidance staff, an assistant principal to help identify brain-based trauma-informed strategies that can be incorporated in the classroom or in the school-wide setting. We also, at the high school during the fall, provided 3 brain-based groups for Penwood High School students, where we focused on what happens in our bodies, what happens, the neurobiologic impact of stress and trauma. So what happens when we become upset, what's going on internally. And we also worked with them in that group to provide strategies that they can utilize outside of the school setting to help manage their emotions. And the student support counselor has conducted 3 classroom observations. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm just curious, are students finding you? I know you talked about referrals, and are students coming and finding the support services they need when they're
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, they are. They are seeking our staff out. I was actually meeting with the counselor at the middle school today, and he told me about a young lady who said to him, I need to come see you. You keep telling me, you know, I'm not on your caseload. And he was like, I'm going to see you this week. So the students know who they are. They come to their offices and they seek them out. And we've noticed that really since the inception of our partnership last year, the students and as it's been reported, the staff have found our counselors to be very helpful.
Thank you very much. I see 3 hands raised. I'm going to go in this order: Mr. Curry, Mr. Tong, and Ms. Hall.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Curry, the principal of the 9th Grade Academy. I just wanted to jump in to talk about Lakeside and the importance of Lakeside and at the 9th Grade Academy. Not only does Ms. Nikki conduct individual sessions and group sessions, students look for her on a daily basis for support. She's also a huge part, and Lakeside is a huge part of our parent conferences and reinstatement meetings as well. Because ultimately we're trying to find the root cause of behavior, and she supports that with follow-up meetings with students. I really just want to just say that the importance of the Lakeside and Ms. Nikki presence at the 9th Grade Academy has been tremendous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curry.
So Ms. Whaley, my question, and this is Jan Tall, board member, is do you feel that your counselors are being utilized fully? Do you feel that we need additional staff members through the service, or do you feel that we're at a good level? Is my question.
I do feel that each of the schools use our staff rather comprehensively, as Mr. Curry indicated, and this is not just occurring at the 9th Grade Academy, but our staff have been helpful or been utilized, I should say, at the middle school with the guidance staff in working in partnership with the guidance staff to support students and address issues, and as well as at the high school. Just so I'm clear, is the second part of your question regarding additional staff support, are you asking about would it be useful for Lakeside to have additional counselors, or are you asking about additional staff support from William Penn? Because the staff have been very supportive, and it has truly been a partnership.
I fully see the benefits of that, and I have kids who are taking part of those services. But my question is the former for do you feel that the district would benefit from additional Lakeside counselors as the work that your team has provided, and from your perspective?
Yes, sir. I think if we were able to have additional counselors, it would enable us to provide more support, see more students, and just expand the work that we've done up to this point. We've worked with students specifically around processing grief. We've done grief groups, and grief has been a common theme, grief and loss, for many of the students, helping students just acclimate and manage the stress and anxiety that they are experiencing after returning to school from COVID. Is a phenomenon that we see not just in William Penn, but nationwide. And I think if we were able to have more counselors there, it would enable us to provide more support to the students and ultimately the staff.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Whaley.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you. Not having to do with this particular presentation, but how does this Lakeside data mesh with what we heard last month regarding Lakeside usage and EBS and that sort of thing? probably not answerable this evening, but I think it was last month or the month before, we discussed Lakeside and EBS and any potential overlap, et cetera. And I'm just going back to that question.
Right, it was last month's board meeting, well, education committee meeting, we discussed EBS specifically. At that time, we had not partnered and had our Lakeside EBS meeting due to various members being absent, such as tonight. So we couldn't, fully plan and discuss that presentation and or partnership. That is something that we're working on next. Ms. Janine is always available for us and to us, and so are our partners from EBS. So we'll be working to get that information up for June.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
Are there any other questions?
Not a question. I just wanted to remind board members, as most of you already know, this is an item that's in our budget and that we're moving this item into our operational budget. So just wanted to remind you all of that.
Okay. Still have a few more items to go.
Thank you, Ms. Janine. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all.
Dr. B. Coates and Dr. Lewis will lead us into district-wide survey results.
All right, I believe I'm starting us off. So as most of the audience knows, we administered another round of climate, culture, and engagement surveys, or as we often call them, the district-wide surveys of staff, students, and families in the William Penn School District. These were administered in the latter half of February this year into early March, they ended right around parent-teacher conferences. Other folks will be talking about sort of the timeline of using the results, but we moved all the surveys a little bit earlier in the year than last year so that we could have some more time to look at the results this year. So I'm just going to overview with some of the participation information to start. This slide shows participation among staff. The survey asks staff to identify their role, and the possible answers are listed there on the left. We ask about role because we want to look at differences between different staff groups, different schools, to better understand what the sort of different strengths and challenges throughout the district are in staff experiences. This shows a calculated response rate for each role, and it shows an overall response rate in the far bottom right. So, I'll start there. Overall, 86% of invited staff responded to the survey. We had very high participation among all individual schools and among WPEA members at each school and among staff at multiple locations or the PLC. And we had lower participation in other groups. Like last year, we had notably lower participation among school-based secretaries and school-based support staff. So that's one of the things we have our eyes on in terms of making sure that decision makers can hear from those groups of staff as well. The last thing I'll note about this, some of you may be seeing the response rates are above 100% in some cases. This is because the role is all based on self-identification. So looking at the second row, 40 respondents said that they were WPEA members at Alden or Colwyn, but the records used to create the survey invitations suggest that there were only 35 WPEA members at those schools. So this means that there were some people who clicked a different button than we expected, either by mistake or because of some other reason. But the 114% means we thought there were 35 and 40 staff members self-identified in that group. We had a similar issue last year, although it's much improved this year because of changes in how the invitations were structured, but just wanted to give folks that context. And we're already thinking about ways to further refine how we handle invitations while remaining anonymous for next year's survey. we can go to.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Okay with you, Ms. Val? I can you put that slide back up? I'm sorry.
The staff participation, yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we had 4 out of 17 principals sit it out when it seems like, for the most part, our staff filled it out. And like you said, the SSO, school secretary, and school-based, we need to figure out how to get those folks because they interact with so many of our students. They're so important to our operation.
Yes. So there haven't been discussions about that particular number, but certainly we want to hear from all of our principals. I will say it is possible that some principals by mistake just didn't select principal. I don't have a way of saying that that's not possible, right? It could be that there are principals who just didn't select that, who clicked something else, or who didn't answer. So that's a possibility as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll look at student participation next. So overall, we had a 54% response rate. That's the bottom right number, looking across all schools. I will remind folks, students in grades K through 2 were not eligible to the survey. They're essentially too young to sit and read through all the questions. So that's why the numbers aren't, our familiar whole student population. So we did hear from 54% of all students. There was a real difference in response rates between elementary schools and secondary schools. There was a fairly high response rate at Penwood Middle, but lower response rates at the 9th grade academy and the high school, as shown there. And among PLC students, we do break that group apart as well, was a lower response rate. The full reports, which are available now, obviously board members have had them for a little while now. They're available to the public as well. That gets into more detail about the representativeness of groups at different schools and the student groups overall, and the things we had to keep in mind based on these response rates to understand the results. But these are the overall response rates for the schools.
Thank you. I'm going to go into some of the highlights of the action.
Pardon me, Dr. Vegas, there's just the family participation up next, and then I think the highlights. So there are 2 rates reported here for the family survey. The first is where it says 9% of families. That's so each student triggered an invitation to families. So a family with 3 William Penn students at home would get essentially 3 chances to take the survey. And 9% of those invitations resulted in a survey response. Another way to look at that is how many households responded. So whereas there were, the full number of invitations, 4,678, in that first response rate, there were 2,960 households identified by street address. And of those, 329 responded. So we always get a little bit of a higher response rate for if we count by households, because sometimes people don't respond for each one of their kids, essentially. This is a decline overall, unfortunately, from our response rate last year. We had about 14% of sort of student-based responses, and then 18% of households respond. So we are looking at ways to get back to where we were and improve on that for next year, the family survey.
One question.
Go ahead, Ms. Hoff.
On the previous slide, those go out via email to the parents, correct?
So we use a number of strategies to get in touch with families. The families had to use a unique ID, which was based on the child's student ID, to log into the survey. So a reminder about that was mailed to them with the address we had on record. There were, as Ms. Abrahamson can talk about, there were a number of other contact channels, social media, email. schools sent out their own, flyers and electronic messages. We also made an effort to make Chromebooks available during parent-teacher conferences and made sure that the survey window covered those conferences. So the idea was on your way in or on your way out from the conference, there's a Chromebook set up where you can take the family survey, which is running. So there were a lot of channels used trying to reach families. And certainly we would like to improve on this, but this year we used quite a few channels.
Great. So if I would wonder if we emailed all of our parents, what percentage of those emails would get bounced back to us? And you can answer that at any time, and it's going to vary, but I'm just curious about the efficacy of our email records.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And, I would have to defer sort of to the communications team about strategies to reach parents in that kind of technical detail.
But I'm just curious, whoever can give us the answer whenever.
Sure.
Typically if we email our database of parents, how many go through and how many are bounced back to us?
Thanks for that question.
I would have the same question about cell phones, how many wrong numbers we get, et cetera, like that.
I've made a note of all of those items, and I will work with Deirdre to make sure that we get a response to the board. I would like to move us to some of the highlights from the survey, if I could. Thank you. So for the student survey, some of the main highlights that we found, and I'm not going to read all of these, I'm just going to do some highlights, is that the survey responses did vary based upon level. We typically found that the lower the grade level, the more favorable the response. So if you look at this particular slide, one of the questions that were asked was how positive or negative is the energy of the school? So the more blue, clear, or light beige that you see, the better the response, or the more favorable the response. If the bar is typically larger in the brown or beige or dark brown and light brown, I guess, it would tend to be more negative. And so that's what you typically see. So we just wanted to give you one example of some of the feedback. And we also noted that student behavior was a factor, and students did indicate that if behavior is not appropriate, it does impact their ability to learn. And we found that more so at the upper grade level than we did the lower grades. The next slide continues to provide us with additional information from our students, and it talks about respect. And so you'll see that, a large percentage of our students are rating our teachers very favorably, if you will, in this area. One of the areas that we do and we will continue to work on for our secondary students, they basically stated that, they needed additional help in math, as well as general academic help, as well as help focusing on some open-ended responses. And there are assessment, as a part of the state's assessment process, there are open-ended questions that students typically have to respond to. And again, what we saw was that the lower the grade, the more favorable the response. The next slide provides you with some data about our family surveys. Although those percentages were very, very low, it does show that at the elementary level, we do see progress with teachers more frequently than families of secondary students. So again, it identifies for us some areas that we do need to potentially work on. Another area that was stated around school safety, it's interesting that we've moved more into the area of violence versus bullying or drugs. And so I think what's happening outside of the schools is causing or having an impact on some areas of concern. And we see that not only from families, but we also noted this from some of our students as well. And then the last thing I would highlight on this slide is there are some barriers to engagements that families have indicated, such as a busy schedule, childcare needs, and some families indicated that school staff seems busy. So we will have to think of some ways to be more innovative in terms of engaging our families. Another item that we've identified on the next slide in reference to staff survey findings is that overall, what we are finding is that more staff generally feel more supported by colleagues than district leaders. However, this varies depending on the staff role as well as the building. There's additional work that's needed on job expectations, if you will. And so we're definitely looking into that, and I'll share with you some of the next steps that we're taking as a result of this survey. And the last piece is we're finding that belonging was rated very favorably and positively, and that there is a value of diversity that we find within our district, and that's what people have indicated, at least at the staff level. The next slide continues to provide information about job satisfaction from our staff. Was pleased to see that 82% of our staff seem to enjoy their job. We still have some work to do with the other percent that don't feel this way. Some open-ended responses, some of the things we heard were that workloads unsustainable, the improvement in special education, and providing a positive work environment. And again, we see concerns about pay and staffing levels. So some of these things we are attempting to address, but there's still more work to be done. And one of the things that I am pleased to see is that overall, we do see year-to-year positive changes. And I think the next two slides will show some of that. So if we could go to the next slide, please. This one shows, and the way that I read the data is that you'll note at the top bar is for 2022, the bottom bar is for 2023. So if the bottom bar, if the brown area is smaller, that means that we are getting better, and that's what you would want. You want more to be in the blue or either the white/clear area. So this one talks about, how proud of you are to tell people that you work for the William Penn School District. 2022, 16% said not proud at all. 2023, it's down to 7%. So again, it's not ultimately where we want it to be, but it's moving in the right direction, as well as the other brown bar, which went from 19 to 16%. So if you go to the next slide, another one of the questions talks about how valued do you feel by district leaders and/or central office staff. So in 2022, 40% said not at all. 2023 is 25%. So again, we're moving in the right direction, but we still have definitely much, much more work to do. And so the next slide highlights just some of the things that we've done since we've received the data. We had a principals meeting. Can you go back to that slide, please? We had a principals meeting on May the 11th, where we talked about what does the data mean to us? What does it say? Schools had to identify at least one area that they were going to work on or theme that they found. We have done the same thing at the central office, and so we will continue to roll out for not only the board, but for our staff, what are some things that we're going to specifically do to address some of the areas of concern from the survey. So I believe that concludes what I wanted to share, and we'll address any questions that anyone may have.
I don't have any questions. I have a comment. Keep asking the questions. It is showing the improvement, but eventually people who aren't answering hopefully will begin to answer. But I think the fact that we have an option to express what you do with it as a participant is a whole nother thing, but some people aren't asking the questions. And so I just say, keep plugging away. I think, is Deirdre supposed to speak?
No, I was actually filling in for Deirdre as well as Danielle. So the survey portion is completed.
Okay. So Ms. Brown, that concludes, if you will, the presentation aspect.
I think we have one more item.
Okay.
Good evening again, everybody. I'm trying to wrap us up quickly. As you know, in alignment with our strategic plan, we want to host annual summer school academy experience. And so we'll talk a little bit about what we have planned for the summer.
Okay, great.
All right, next slide. So we are going to be hosting summer enrichment programs for all grades rising kinder through 12th. We have been reaching out to parents and marketing this through our buildings, and parents can get registered at williampennsd.org/summer. And if they have any questions or need any support, they can email us at the academic services email posted on the screen. All right, so just to give some quick information, students will be placed in specific programs based on their grade level for the fall of the 2023-2024 school year. Transportation will be provided for the extended school year program, which is tied to special education. Transportation for other programs in grades 7 through 9 will be determined based on registration. So if we can get enough students registered, then we will offer transportation for those students who would typically catch the bus to those programs. We will also provide breakfast and lunch for all students in the program. And the cost of all these programs is free. There is a $25 registration fee associated with credit recovery at the high school level. But other than that, all of those programs are free. And that $25 is rolled into their senior dues. All right, next slide. Just going to talk about a couple of the different programs. So at our elementary level, we have Camp Rock for our K-2 students. And for our 3 to 6 students, we have Camp Kaboom. There are multiple locations, Ardmore Avenue and Park Lane. And that most of those programs focus on social, emotional, and academic development. Sorry about that. At our middle school level, we have Links to Success, which is really built around STEM, and that is for our rising 7th and 8th graders. So it's going to be a combination of bridge for those students that are new to the middle school, as well as summer support for those students transitioning from 7th to 8th. At our 9th grade academy, we're going to be having our Young Men and Women in Charge Summer Bridge program, and that is going to be once again built around STEM. There are going to be college trips, and Young Men and Women in Charge is a program that already exists at the high school level, so students actually had an opportunity to continue their participation in this program throughout their high school career. And then last but not least, we have credit acceleration at the Green Avenue campus for our 10th through 12th graders. So that is a combination of both credit recovery for students that have not passed classes, as well as we're offering math acceleration for students that want to get, further ahead in their math course pathway. They can take geometry, algebra 2, or pre-calculus. Take any questions?
No transportation is provided for summer class courses, correct?
Not for summer courses. So the only transportation is for ESY. And if we get a large enough enrollment in our middle school and 9th grade academy, given that those are like district-wide programs, that those will be, transportation will be provided for those.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions?
I wondered if at a future meeting we could talk about the 9th grade block scheduling and what that looks like, just so the school board directors can sort of understand that. And I got an email from a librarian today wanting to know if we were putting out summer reading lists as a district because they want to stock their library.
We are putting out that list, and that will be given to all of the local libraries.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you for your time, for your commitment. Have a great evening. Meeting is adjourned.